Why is that a bad thing, given the fact that some would say the United States is a nation of immigrants?
They're not coming here to assimilate with us. They're coming here to take over.
The comparisons of this election to 2016 are incredible. Startling, in fact. You've got in Kamala Harris the closest thing that you'll ever find to Hillary Clinton. The only big difference between the two of them is that Kamala Harris hasn't been annoying you for over 30 years. But other than that, this is lining up to look just like 2016. And I bring that up because a moment happened on MSNBC that you have to see, where an ordinary voter made everyone on that network's head explode when she explained exactly why she's voting for Donald Trump.
There's just so many people, and there's just not enough resources. There's not enough jobs. There's not enough homes.
She's glad Trump, who she supports, has been calling attention to Charleroi and Springfield.
People need to know that it's just not Springfield. This is coming to a town near you.
What is coming to a town near you?
Haitians or immigrants that have poured over the border within the last couple of years.
Why is that a bad thing, given the fact that some would say the United States is a nation of immigrants?
They're not coming here to assimilate with us. They're coming here to take over.
All right. Now, as you can well imagine, MSNBC and NBC News writ large have been using voters like that and this woman to paint Trump voters and Trump supporters, and Trump for that matter, as racist and xenophobic because they're anti-immigrant. And you just saw the narrative coming from the network. But we are a nation of immigrants. Why is it a bad thing? Right? This is what they want to do. And again, does it remind you of 2016? Does it remind you, we were told that from the very first press conference Donald Trump delivered at Trump Tower when he announced his candidacy in 2015, that he was dead on arrival, that there was no way he could be president of the United States because he said that he wanted to build a wall on our southern border and that Mexico is not sending us their best and brightest. Remember? It was racist. It was xenophobic. After all, we are a nation of immigrants. And anyone who's supporting Donald Trump is xenophobic, racist, and a basket of deplorables. That was how 2016 played out. And 2024 is playing out almost exactly the same. If anything, we have an even more immediate example of the disastrous border policies to lay out right in front of you. And I want to show you a little bit more here, at least from Donald Trump last night, because he gets it. He sees this pattern too. I mean, here we are 8 years after he last ran for president, and they have given him the border and immigration policy on a silver platter as a topic again, as a policy issue again, and he's running on it. Here he was at the rally yesterday.
Kamala has illegally flown in more than 500,000 migrants, right? When she was saying, no, we don't want to do that. And she's got, these guys actually want these people in our country. It's not even believable. Working with left-wing nonprofits to inundate Pennsylvania communities, changing the character of small towns and villages all over our country and changing them forever. They will never be the same. They will never be. Do you think Springfield will ever be the same? I don't think. The fact is, and I'll say it now, you have to get him the hell out. You have to get him out. I'm sorry. To get him out. Can't have it. Can't have it. They've destroyed it.
Now, the crowd chanting, send them back, of course, is going to be played on some news outlets, appealing to people who are already ready to vote for Kamala Harris and eager to vote for Kamala Harris, is yet another example as to why all these MAGA people are racist and xenophobic, and they don't understand that we in America need to embrace immigrants because, say it again with me, we are a nation of immigrants. Well, Here's what's happening underneath all of this and why this is so similar to 2016. The media living in New York and Washington, D.C., they see this stuff and they immediately knee-jerk ignore the concerns of the people sitting in that arena, ignore the concerns of the people in Springfield, Ohio, right? All they care about are those who have come here illegally or have been given to temporary protective status like the Haitians in Springfield. All they care about is their hurt feelings and their plight, but they don't care about the voters who are actually suffering from these policies. They're completely ignoring it and only giving voice to the college professors who show up on their panel discussions and clutch their pearls and tut-tut about this sort of thing. But that doesn't win an election, right? And the latest Pew Research poll shows that the number one issue facing American voters going into the election in 6 weeks is the economy. Number two, immigration. And I would argue that the economy is directly related to the immigration issue. So really, it's kind of a 1-2 punch there. And I assure you that Kamala Harris is on the wrong side of this issue. In fact, based on the latest poll, the majority of Americans support the idea of deporting people who are in this country illegally. Could we play the video from yesterday of Kamala Harris dancing in the streets of Los Angeles saying, deportation never, no deportation, no deportation? She's on the wrong side of this issue. And as much as the mainstream media tries to paint that woman voter that we just saw as the problem, she's actually speaking for those very voters that the media and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are not just ignoring, but insulting. And it's playing out exactly like it did 8 years ago. Exactly like it played out 8 years ago. This issue is incredibly real, and it's not just for border states. In fact, the biggest difference between now and 8 years ago is that this probably helped Trump in Arizona. It helped Trump in Florida. It helped Trump in traditional border states that have a large influx of illegal immigration 8 years ago. But thanks to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's brilliant strategy in airlifting illegal immigrants into Ohio, into Pennsylvania, into middle American states, ostensibly, I think, to eventually give them amnesty, give them the vote, and change those states into forever blue states. That's my opinion. Instead, what it's done is make life so miserable for the voters in those states that now Pennsylvania is a border town. Bigly. And so when that happens in Pennsylvania, it resonates. It makes a difference. And Kamala Harris is on the wrong side of this issue. That's why she's announced today that she'll be going to the border. That's right. Kamala Harris is going to the border. In the shadow of an election, she hasn't been there. She stopped once, I think, for half an hour over the course of the last 3.5 years. And now, right before the election, she's going to make some sort of dog and pony show at the border to pretend like she cares about this issue. It's over. It's absolutely over for them. A little bit more of Trump here, and then I'll sum this up about how the President Trump, J.D. Vance, and how you and I should address this immigration issue and the border issue, specifically the illegal immigration issue, going forward, because we need to be able to communicate on this issue effectively. And there's a way to do it. We're going to get to that in a second. Here's more Trump at that rally.
Migration policy can change it very quickly, and it can destroy everything in its way, just like we've seen in London and Paris and Minneapolis. Look at what's happened in London. Look what's happening in Paris. If Kamala Harris wins this election, she will flood Pennsylvania cities and towns with illegal migrants from all over the world. And Pennsylvania will never be the same. You will never be the same. When I'm president, all migrant flights to Pennsylvania will stop immediately. By the way, all migrant flights. Not only to Pennsylvania, everywhere. No, but how about they get caught? We just found that out a few months ago. They're saying, no, we're fighting. In the meantime, people are just pouring in. No, we want to do it. And then we learned that the airplanes are flying. That means that, it's just a big con job. Remember this. For a long time, she's been talking about her experience at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's over the French fries. It was so hot. I think I'm going to go to a McDonald's next week someplace. I'm going to go. Might not be in your place. I'm going to go to a McDonald's, and I'm going to work the French fry job for about a half an hour. I want to see how it is. But she said she worked since she grew up in terrible conditions. She worked at McDonald's. It was such. She never worked there. And these fake news reporters will never report it. They don't want to report it because they're fake. They're fake. They don't want to report it. She never worked at McDonald's, but it was a big part of her resume. They went to the different places. Did she work here? Did she work here? Did she work here? She said, we don't know who the hell she is. Leave us alone. We're making hamburgers. We will end the invasion of small town Pennsylvania, and we will end the destruction of America. It's destroying our country. But reckless.
Right. And again, that will be clipped as another example of basket of deplorables. And they'll use that. They will. And they'll continue to say that Trump is a xenophobe and Trump is Hitler and Trump hates immigrants. And how did that work out 8 years ago? How did that work out 8 years ago when we didn't even have the level of crisis that we have right now? But this is what they'll do. They can't help themselves. And in so doing, they will ignore the voters, the actual voters, who are going to vote on this issue. Number two, behind the economy right now. Voters like this man at that very same rally. A trucker in central Pennsylvania, where this race will be won, talking specifically about what's going on in his life and in his community because of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's neglect of basic national security and border principles.
My name's Ernie. I'm here as a representative resident of the small town of Charleroi, PA, which you may have heard on the news here recently. Over half of our town is now filled with Haitian immigrants and illegal immigrants brought into taking our jobs away. That there is a nation-killing practice, which is brought in by the federal government and specifically the Biden-Harris administration. And I'm here with a dire warning to every American. This isn't going to stop unless we can take our country back. Under the Biden-Harris administration, 9.9 million immigrants have made it across the border since they have taken office. There is no pushback from the administration to close or seal the border, which is now affecting small town America in my hometown of Charleroi, PA. And the biggest thing, and it's tattooed right here on my arm, we the people run this country. And we have to remember and tell the Democrats and Kamala Harris that we run this country and take it back and make America great again. Thank you.
Have you seen a Kamala Harris rally recently or Tim Walz rally? Very different vibe. Very rarely do you see a voter up on the podium like that, just a regular Joe or Jane for that matter. And you certainly don't see that kind of message in any way whatsoever about the voters and the concern. The entire way the media and the Democrats are reacting to this issue right now is to pour out sympathy for the people who have actually come into this country illegally, that they're afraid that they're being put upon. That's the entire focus. But I want to go back to that first clip that we watched when the reporter pushes back on the woman. Yeah, it is an amazing moment, actually. In fact, I guess we should watch it again because I want to use this as sort of a quick jumping off point for my final thoughts here. Stand by, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just get
enough resources. There's not enough jobs. There's not enough homes.
She's glad Trump, who she supports, has been calling attention to Charleroi and Springfield.
People need to know that it's just not Springfield. This is coming to a town near you.
What is coming to a town near you?
Haitians or immigrants that have poured over the border within the last couple of years.
Why is that a bad thing, given the fact that some would say the United States is a nation of immigrants?
Okay, there we go. That's all you need to see because that's what you'll hear. I mean, we heard it during the entire Trump presidency, right? From Jim Acosta. What about the poem on the base of the Statue of Liberty? You can You can't limit immigration. It says, give us your tired, your bored. You know, that's not a law. That's not actually a policy. That's not even a founding document. It's a frickin' poem that was engraved on a statue, dude. I don't think the presidency and the Congress are beholden to what some poet wrote in the late 19th century and had engraved on the base of a statue as in some way some rock solid policy that we must all adhere to. But that's what you'll see. First of all, on the facts, objectively speaking, this woman is correct. And it's telling, by the way, when Yamich El-Sindor, a Haitian-American reporter, by the way, it's shocking how NBC sent her out to cover this story, isn't it? Not that she has any vested interest, totally impartial and unbiased reporting there. When the voter says this is coming to a town near you, it's coming to your town, Yamich El-Sindor says, what's coming? And the voter says Haitians or any other immigrant group, they're going to be airlifted from the border after they enter this country, and they're going to be placed in your town, and you're going to have to deal with it. And Yamich El-Sindor did not say, well, there's no evidence of that. What makes you say that? Has Kamala Harris said she's going to do that? Why would you say that's, do you have anything to back that up? Do you have any evidence? Did you notice that she didn't push back on any of that notion? She didn't challenge whether it was going to be coming to a town near you or to your small town. She did not, did she? Her response was, well, why is that a bad thing? After all, we're a nation of immigrants. And that right there, my friends, is the secret sauce that all of us have to understand, ingest, digest, and be ready for as we have this conversation over the course of the next 6 weeks. And should Donald Trump win, then through the course of his presidency, as he implements these policies to reverse the nightmare that Biden-Harris has created here. You see too often the discussion of immigration policy and border security is framed by the left. See, the discussion is always framed from the perspective of those who want unmitigated, complete and total open borders and unlimited immigration. They're the ones who always get to frame the argument. And they'll always frame it like that. Why is this a bad thing? We're a nation of immigrants. And of course, here's how we respond. First of all, don't let them get away with that. You need to challenge certain premises that they bring up and just assume everybody agrees with, or just want to presume into the conversation without actually having to defend their position. So you begin this way. We're a nation of immigrants, and that's true, but as a nation of immigrants, we have always controlled immigration, regulated immigration. You believe in government regulation, don't you? Do you believe that the government has the right to regulate immigration, or should we just let everybody from around the world in? Now, listen, if they say, oh, no, we shouldn't have any controls and anyone from the world should be able to come here and stay here, honestly, there's no conversation with that person at this point. Now, in the media, I doubt that any reporter would actually make that case. Maybe Jim Acosta and Yamich El-Sindor. But for the most part, they say, well, of course, we all recognize that the government has a right to control the borders. They have a right to regulate immigration. And that's the first part of actually having a real conversation about this. Oh, okay. Well, good, because I agree that we should have immigration in this country. And I also agree that our government not only has the right to regulate and control immigration, they have a duty to do that, right? Because let's just be clear here. You say we're a nation of immigrants, and I'm sure you're pointing to the Statue of Liberty in the late 19th century when we had an increase in the manufacturing economy in our country, in the industrial age, and we needed more workers from Europe, cheap labor. And I understand you're a big fan of cheap labor, especially if it's people from foreign countries with dark skin. Okay, fine. I understand where you stand on this. I don't 100% agree, but yes, it is in our past that we were bringing in a bunch of foreigners from other countries with broken economies, letting them in here, but only under the condition that they take a lot of tough jobs in sweatshops for no money at all, basically, so that the white people in this country at the top of the pyramid could thrive. I understand that's your position. But even then, in the industrial age, at the turn of the century, when we had a hell of a lot of immigration in this country, mostly from European nations, even then we regulated it. When people came in on ships past that statue that said, bring me your poor, your tired, and your huddled masses, they didn't go right into Manhattan and just flood into the city and find jobs. No, they had to make a stop at Ellis Island. Ever done the Ellis Island tour? Have you seen the cells that they were held in while they got their shots and made sure they didn't have tuberculosis? Did you ever see the documents they had to sign that promised they had a sponsor in this country so that they wouldn't be a burden to the state? Did you see the paperwork they had to fill out to promise that they wouldn't rely on the federal government to give them housing or an education or food or a roof over their head? You ever see that? Because when you say we're a nation of immigrants, that's how immigration policy works and has worked. So sure, I'll accept your premise. We're a nation of immigrants. Why is it a bad thing to have immigrants in your community? And I'll say, you know what? You have a point. Tell me, how many is enough? I've got a better question for you, Yamich. How many is too many? How many immigrants to this country on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis is too many? Because if you believe the government has a right and obligation to control our borders and regulate immigration so that it's done safely, fairly, judiciously, and in an organized fashion, then you have to step up and say, this is the limit. This is the number. This is too many. Are you willing to do that? And until you are, you're not serious about this issue. This is not a moral issue. They want to make this a moral issue. They want to make this an issue of your morality or lack thereof. If you dare to step up and say, not every human being on this planet has a God-given right to be an American. And if you dare to say that obvious logical truth, they want to question your morality. They want to make you a monster. Don't give them that chance. All you need to do is articulate the obvious logical truth. There has to be a limit. What's the limit? And how do you control that limit if you literally let anyone in through the border as we have for the last 3.5 years? That moment in that interview, when Yamich Alcindor says, why is that a bad thing? After all, we're a nation of immigrants. That's the tell. That explains it all. And that's what they're doing. And that's what they're going to try to do. The good news is, like 8 years ago, Donald Trump is fearless on this issue. He knows he's right. He knows it can be fixed. He knows it can be controlled. And he doesn't care what they call him. They did this 8 years ago. And he won. Big league.